In the news this week, the Institute warns that the government's revised online safety bill still poses a serious threat to free speech. MSPs express support for a far-reaching conversion therapy ban in Scotland. And the House of Lords votes against the latest attempt to legalise assisted suicide. Hello. The Christian Institute is warning that the government's changes to its online safety bill still don't go far enough to protect free speech. The proposed legislation seeks to clamp down on online content deemed harmful. Such content could include the promotion of self-harm, harassment, and eating disorders, but the definition could go much further. Social media companies can be fined up to 10% of their annual global income if they fail to tackle such content, while senior executives could also face fines or jail time if they do not comply with Ofcom investigations. Culture Secretary Nadine Dorries claimed the legislation would make the UK the safest place to go online, but the Institute's Simon Calvert said that despite some improvements, there are still significant concerns with the bill.
Of course, everyone's going to welcome the fact that this bill will do something about children being able to access porn online and other issues like that where there'll be widespread agreement. But the problem is that it's going to put even more pressure on tech companies to take down content that people object to. Now, for some of these tech companies, they don't need much incentive to target Christian content that they don't agree with. And this is likely to make that situation worse. There is a free speech duty in the legislation, but it's very weak compared to all the other duties on tech companies to take content down. And just as worrying is the fact that the government is going to give itself powers so that ministers can pretty much rewrite the law on what we're allowed to say online almost at a stroke.
MSPs have backed calls for a far-reaching ban on so-called conversion therapy, sparking renewed fears for religious liberty and free speech. Members were debating a report from the Equalities Committee which recommended prayer, preaching and pastoral support should only be permitted if conducted in a non-directive way. Equalities Minister Christina McKelvey downplayed concerns about religious freedom, but the SNP's John Mason warned the proposals could cut across basic Christian beliefs.
As convener of the cross-party group on freedom of religion or belief, I would want to urge Parliament to be careful about interfering too much with religious beliefs and practices. This certainly applies to the practice of prayer. I think the state has to be wary of interfering in someone's relationship with God through prayer, whether that be an individual praying, or two people praying together, or prayer in a group setting.
The Christian Institute's lawyers have warned the Scottish Government that it could face legal action if it passes legislation which catches the ordinary work of churches. Sir Keir Starmer has been criticised for claiming that the legal definition of woman includes men who identify as members of the opposite sex. The Labour leader told The Times, "A woman is a female adult, and in addition to that, trans women are women, and that is not just my view, that is actually the law." Prominent women's rights campaigner Joanna Cherry QC and Harry Potter author J.K. Rowling challenged the former Director of Public Prosecutions over his understanding of the law. It is simply unacceptable for a senior lawyer such as Keir Starmer to so misstate the law on women's rights. Now Keir Starmer publicly misrepresents equalities law in yet another indication that the Labour Party can no longer be counted on to defend women's rights. And finally, the House of Lords has rejected the latest attempt to legalise assisted suicide in England and Wales. Peers voted by 179 to 145 against Lord Forsyth's amendment to the Health and Care Bill that sought to allow terminally ill adults to get help from doctors to kill themselves. It is the 12th time since 1997 that such proposals have not been passed by UK parliamentarians. The Institute's Kieran Kelly welcomed the news. Weakening the law would have put vulnerable people under pressure to end their lives for fear of being a financial, emotional, or care burden on others. Keeping assisted suicide illegal is the only safeguard. Several peers also spoke powerfully against the amendment.
This is a complex and highly contentious ethical issue. Opening the door to what is effectively assisted suicide would be an actual monumental change in the criminal law with potentially legal consequences. If we get it wrong, it would result in some vulnerable people needlessly taking their own life.
We've been assured that this isn't about the merits of assisted dying. But, my lords, let no one underestimate the magnitude of what is at stake in this amendment. This isn't the start of some cosy conversation about a harmless anodyne measure. The end goal is assisted suicide.
Well, that's all for this week. For regular updates and information on all of our stories, plus much more, visit our website at christian.org.uk. Until next time, goodbye.